Hi, everybody. This is Dr. Cynthia Toolin-Wilson on my show, Author to Author, with Andrew Likoudis. And he's the editor of a very interesting book, Scholars of the Sacred. How are you tonight, Andrew?
I'm doing well. I just got out of Mass a little while ago, so I'm doing well, and I'm really excited about this publication, which just came out today.
Okay. Well, let's start with a prayer, and then we'll dive right into the book.
Sounds good.
In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit.
Amen.
Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou among women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus.
Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners, now and at the hour of our death. Amen.
Amen. Father, Son, Holy Spirit.
Amen.
Okay. So tell me how you got interested in this.
Well, it's a long story. I was basically at the beginning of COVID. I was looking for projects to do in my spare time because I had a lot of it. And my mother recommended I try getting some of my grandfather's works into PDFs because they'd all gone out of print, and some people were asking for copies still. Not a ton of people, but enough. And so we were. She recommended I try to get them from paper to digital, and then go from there. So I bought a scanner, a really professional scanner. I started scanning them page by page, and I got about halfway through the project of turning them from paper to digital. And my grandfather sort of told me to halt, and he's like, I don't know if I want to do the PDFs or ebooks rather. He didn't want to do the trouble of the ebooks or put me through that. And I was already halfway through the project, which took me quite a long time. And I was a little bit upset. So I asked him, well, what about just getting them back into print? Because I'm almost finished, and it would be worth my while if we could just do both paper and digital. That way I'm not doing all this work just for a few ebooks. So I called up a few publishing houses. One of them, Emmaus Road, said yes, and then I went from there. And then I got 3 of them into digital, and then during this whole process, I realized how much my grandfather had actually written, which was way more than just the 3 books I was working on. And I thought, this is all, nobody knows about any of this. And people were contacting me and telling me that my grandfather had a big influence on them, and that they were sort of upset that his works were out of print and they weren't available. We noticed one of the books was on Amazon. It was just a guy selling a secondhand copy of the book, and it was selling for like something like $1,000 or
wow,
more than $1,000, I think. And at that point, I was that was the moment where I'm like, we need to get these books back into print, and nobody should be paying that price.
Right.
So I started doing some research, and I started collecting his essays on various topics. I actually ended up compiling a CV for him and listing all his essays, but some of them I pulled together into collections, and I thought these would make great books. They just need a table of contents, maybe an index, and they're good to go. And the thing about my grandfather's original books is that they were all self-published. None of them had an editor. and they were published before the internet existed. So none of them had the reach that they could. And even despite that, they had a big influence. But now with the advent of the internet, I thought this is a great time to get them in print. And now that my grandfather's known a little bit, maybe a real publisher will take them. And so I've been working steadily for about 4 years now to try to bring them all into print. And at this point, I think it's close to like 7 or 8 books. And this is the second one that's been published. So there's a few more to go. So I'm excited.
Yeah, I would think so. It sounds like a great project, and it's well worth doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm really grateful that he's trusted me with it. And it's been really a journey, and got to meet a lot of people. I've got to correspond with a lot of people, reaching out for endorsements and stuff like that, and having conversations with people that tell me stories about my grandfather, and it's been cool. Even just for that reason.
Sure.
I've gotten to know my grandfather way better than I've known him throughout my early young adult life. So that's been awesome.
That's good. I bet he's happy too.
I think he is. He's 95 now, and he's seeing all these books coming back into print, and it's like he has boxes and boxes of writings, and we're trying to, I'm sure he's grateful that it's not going to waste or going in some storage cabinet. So
and he must be really appreciative that it's his grandson that's doing it. That's quite a legacy.
Yeah. I think so.
Yeah.
So actually, you bring that up. We've been talking about not my grandfather and I so much, but my grandfather and my grandfather's colleagues and I have been talking about how we can preserve his work and really make an impact with it. And so we've decided to launch this legacy foundation, which we're gonna these books are gonna be sort of all collected under that banner. So we're putting the stamp on all the books, and we're hoping to really, I don't know, sort of have a collective impact of the books, if that makes sense.
It does, because you know what I was just thinking, once things are published, and especially if you have a collection like that, that's going to last. It could last hundreds of years.
Right.
You very literally could have an impact on who knows how many people, because, that's, one person reads it and says, well, gee, I just read something here. Maybe you'd like to see this. It starts being quoted. It could really have they could really have a tremendous impact on the field.
Thank you. And I'm hoping that having them all collected under this banner, if someone reads one of them, now they know where to look for all the other ones.
Yes.
So I think that's what you're saying, right?
Yeah. And that can grow in popularity, and it can really have an impact.
Yeah. So it's still in the earliest stages, but we're excited to see what it brings, and we're pretty enthusiastic and trying to be creative with it.
Well, I think you are. You're being very creative. I would never have thought of collecting things under one banner. I would have just kept publishing them. No.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, either model works, but this, I think this works for us, and yeah. But eventually, we want to create a biography, but that's probably years down the road.
Has he thought of doing anything like a memoir or autobiographical?
He's done something like that. One of his books, Eastern Orthodoxy and the See of Peter, is what contains his conversion story.
Oh, good.
So that would be the closest thing to a memoir, I would say. But this book that we just came out with, I think this is really unique in its own right, because it documents a really pivotal moment, and it's sort of, I guess you would say, somewhat of a model for the rest of his work, and that's why I wanted to release it early. It details the stories of close to a dozen Dominicans who lived around the time of Florence, and Florence was the one moment since the Great Schism where the churches really came together again, and it was only temporary. But if we can model that in our time, that would really be something great for the church.
Yes.
You think it's been 1,000 years that the schisms lasted. Yep. So we're really trying. I mean, I'm really hoping that we can aid this effort to reunite the churches.
I've always suspected that they probably have more in common than they have. Yeah. It's too bad that there isn't a way of putting those differences to the side and then working with them, maybe some kind of think tank.
Yeah, well, that's a lot of, since Vatican II, that's been a real thrust that the church has been trying to go for. And we've had some dialogues. We've signed a few documents. There was a recent Alexandrian document that was signed about the primacy of the Pope, and we were able to agree on a few things. So there's been some progress, but in fact, I mean, we've seen more progress now than ever, I think. Except maybe around this time of Florence, when they actually came back together again.
Well, I think that there are many people in Rome also that would like that. So it's
on both sides, I imagine.
Yeah, I think that there probably is, because I mean, there's only one Christ, and we should consider trying to teach in unity. I mean, neither side should have to give up. I'm thinking of things like their liturgies and that sort of thing, but be able to communicate on this one basic religion that we have all stemmed from, obviously grown over time. But there should be a way of doing this, because I do think there are many men of goodwill in the church on both sides that may be very interested in this.
Yeah, there's been a movement to, in Vatican II, I think, reintroduce this, but communication or communion in things sacred. So we allow Orthodox to receive the Eucharist, for example, at our liturgies, and they don't reciprocate as much as we'd like, but some of them do, and that shows a desire for unity. But really, it is one church that Christ established, and only one, and we need to recognize that, and also recognize that unity was Christ's last prayer during his public ministry
Yep.
in the Garden of Gethsemane. And and so this, I mean, it's absolutely true that the fracturing and divisions between Christians are a real scandal to non-believers, and unity is the greatest thing we can do for evangelizing the world.
Yeah, I have heard people say things like, well, how can you tell us how to live when you can't even get along? And it's true.
Yeah.
You know, it's like we should be able to get along. It is, there's only 10 commandments. You know, we should all be living by them. And yet we have all these fights over things that are just not as integral. You know, it's a shame.
Yeah.
But working in that area and doing what you're doing, I mean, that's certainly something you should be very proud of.
Thank you. Yeah. I'm more humbled than anything, but I'm really grateful that these things are coming out, and I hope they have a big impact. It's been a lot of sleepless nights and just poring over pages and pages. So,
well, you know, the other thing, sometimes success is slow.
Yeah,
but that doesn't mean anything, because it takes people time to read all those things.
That's true. Yeah.
You know, so it could be, you know, a long period of time where you don't see any fruit.
And
encouraged, because
no, I won't.
Sometimes takes a long time.
Thank you. Yeah. I mean, some saints never saw the fruit of their labors either. And that's something also to keep in mind.
Yes, definitely.
But I know there was one Saint Leopoldo of Castelnuovo. He was a Capuchin monk. He's probably my grandfather's favorite saint. But he really labored for unity, and he was doing basically what everyone knows Saint Teresa of Jesus did, or Teresa of the Child Jesus, which is just living among her community and offering things up. And he would offer up the hours he spent in the confessional for unity. That was his primary prayer, I would say. And he lived a long life, and he sometimes, I think, he spent upwards of 10 hours a day in the confessional.
Wow.
So yeah.
But
his prayer will bear fruit, even if he didn't see it. And I invoke his intercession for this project that I'm doing, and in the hopes that God will use me to be an instrument for peace and unity.
Yeah. Well, the disruption of unity, I mean, because we all tend to think on the human level, so because we are human, we all tend to think of, you know, well, if this person did this and this person did that, or they take offense at something, you know, there's only one person who's behind that, and that's Satan. And you know, so you know, a very powerful enemy, and you know, something that you know, if you know, I don't even know, you know, it's just go to frequent confession, go to the Eucharist as often as you can.
And establish a real prayer life. That's essential.
Yeah, and those things will help to fight him. But is a powerful foe, and anything that you're going to do, or anything that anyone does that's going to assist the church, is going to come up against him.
Oh yeah, but he's not the most powerful, and that's what we have to keep in mind.
Sure, but it is important that we fight him with effect. You know, like, I don't know if you have the tradition in the Catholic in the Roman Catholic Church. We have the first Friday, first Saturday, and those are, so.
Oh yeah, yeah,
yeah,
and the Rosary. I mean,
oh yeah, yes, absolutely.
So
sounds like we're on the same page.
yeah, I mean, yeah, I think so, and I mean that also comes back to the Dominicans with the Rosary, because they started that.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, the parish I go to, I came when my husband was real sick. I wasn't able to get out of the house very much, and so that ended last November. So I started going back to the parish here in Springfield, Vermont. I've never seen such an active parish.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the priest is from the Philippines, and he loves everybody.
Yeah.
Oh, and he's a lot like you. He's always smiling. You're always smiling. That's great.
Yeah.
And but I look at what he has done for unity in that church, and it amazes me. I mean, there's a lot of daily communicants. People come early because he says he prays the Rosary before each Mass.
Good. That's super important. I mean, a lot of parishes that I've been to, there aren't the priest is really the father of the parish, and if the father models the faith, then the faithful will follow. And a lot of parishes, you never see the priest praying, and that has an impact, I think. And granted, a lot of priests have their own private chapel in their residence, or they have their own prayer times. But it's really important for parishioners to see their father praying, because prayer is one of the best things we can do.
Lead by example. That's what he does.
Yeah.
When we first started having the Rosary before every Mass, I mean, it was like abysmally sparse. You'd look in this big church and there'd be like 5 people.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
But now there are many. So now he led by example, and he persisted.
Yeah.
And so.
Yeah, at my parish as well, we have a really a growing young adult group, and it was, I think, the result of a lot of engagement at the parish, and we had a really prayerful priest, and eventually we established perpetual adoration, and we're keeping that going. But our group has grown over the past 8 years or so, from, I want to say, 5 to close to 100 or 150, just young adults.
Right. And that's a good way to pass on the faith, because if they stay, not together as a group, but if they stay interacting as they become adults, that's a good core for the church in the future. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, yep, no question about it. Young people are important. It's when I first started going to this parish, I remember I was coming out of it one day, and I heard this also, I don't know, middle-aged maybe woman talking to a friend of hers, and she said, everybody in there is old. Everybody has gray hair. And I want, excuse me, mine is white.
Yeah.
But anyway, I mean, if you're going to insult me properly, accurately. Sure. But yeah, it's amazing the turnaround he's done in this church, and that can be done everywhere. It just takes some dedicated people and the right thing, and
being intentional about it. We really need to be intentional about our faith, especially in the culture we live. And yeah. And go ahead.
It's really deteriorated. I mean, I'm 73, so I was young in the 60s, and in the 60s, we thought, we were going to change the whole country for the better. We changed the whole country.
Well, it can still happen. I mean,
but not for the better.
it can still happen, but I think the enthusiasm has to be tempered with some realism. And there was a lot of enthusiasm, but not a lot of direction, I would say, especially after 2 world wars, the Great Depression, introduction of the internet. Nobody had direction, and some people still don't.
Yeah, that's true. Plus, of course, most of the people were using drugs.
Well, that too.
that didn't. This looks like a great idea, and then the next morning, what was that idea?
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
So, but I don't know. I don't think that scene is as bad as it is now. I'm sure there are a lot of people who still use drugs, but it doesn't seem to be as socially accepted. But
there's no movement at this point.
Yeah. That was one crazy movement.
I'm sure. I grew up in upstate New York, and that's where Woodstock was held.
Sure.
And so, I mean, I hear stories about cars lined up for miles. People would park their car miles away because there was no parking, and they would walk to these festivals. And if you saw the photos, they're just like a mile-wide field of just people. Pretty. It was a sight.
Well, the country did survive it. I will say that. So that's good, but it did change it.
Sure.
For instance, when I look at the feminist movement, I think that obviously women are equal, although we're still not always treated that way. But the thing is that you can't define feminism as free sex, free love. That's not feminism. That's,
exactly.
That's something else. It was really an opportunity missed to project, women's intelligence. I think we're as intelligent as men, or men are as intelligent as us. But it goes both ways.
Sure, it does.
But how we think is different.
Right.
So we don't think alike.
Right.
And
we're complementary, though.
Yes, we are. And that was what was missing. We're all equal, but we're all the same, and we're not. No. So, many a time, it was funny because my very beloved husband, and I mean, really, he is the love of my life. And he had a 4th grade education, doctor. And when we first met, I deliberately didn't tell him this because I thought he was going to run away.
Yeah.
And then he asked me to marry him, and he said, I'll support you. You don't have to work anymore. And I said, well, no, I want to work. I have a career. And he said, what do you do? And I said, well, I'm a professor. But the thing is, he would have a perspective on a problem. I would go to him with a problem that I couldn't figure out, and he'd have a different. It was this perspective, I think, more. And he'd see something, and he'd say, "No, this is the way it has to be done," and he'd always be right. It was very irritating for a while, but because he was always right. But that's a good example of the kind of thing where we ran amok, because we're equal, but we're not all the same.
Yeah.
And just couldn't get by that.
Yeah.
And it came out in very bad ways.
Sure. Yeah.
But hopefully with what you and your grandfather are doing and some other people, maybe we can get more on track.
Well, yeah. And, I'll tell you, so my grandfather did a lot of work at ecumenism with the Eastern Orthodox. but he also did a lot of work in gender and sexuality issues, and regarding Humanae Vitae, pill. I mean, those are sort of the same thing, but he was a big defender of Humanae Vitae, and he sort of, even before Roe v. Wade was passed, he was saying what the effects of this careless sex and abortion, contraceptive mentality would be, and it turned out that women really felt the effects of that, and it's affected like the way that women are perceived in our culture. They're objectified, and they aren't treated with equal dignity, and so we're trying to publish some of his work on these topics as well.
Oh, I'd like those. As soon as you get those published, you let me know.
Sure. He did probably, I think I've collected some of them. I know I've missed a few, but we're looking at close to 600 or 700 pages of writings. And I mean, I went through some newspaper articles, and there's probably like 100 at least news articles where he's going back and forth with people, and I mean, even the New York Times cited him a couple times, and he had a big impact in those days, but it was sort of here and there, scattered around, and we think if we collect this and sort of channel it, maybe we can have an impact. And
well, that's the whole sexuality and sex equality, birth control and abortion, that is just still so bad. That would be a very good thing to publish, and I think a lot of theologians would appreciate that.
I'm hoping, and really, I think one of the pressing issues today is the whole transgender ideology, and a lot of these issues are intertwined.
Oh, of course.
So yeah, it's a whole mess of issues that need to be addressed, and so we're pulling together this other book, and we're really excited about that one. That one's probably last on the list, just because it's going to take a lot of time, and it's not similar to the other issues, so I really want to focus well on it, and do a good job. But I've heard from a few people; they're really excited and they're happy to endorse it. And I have one friend. He's a new friend, but he's writing a major profile piece on my grandfather's work for the Human Life Review. Something close to 20 pages detailing his work in the 60s and 70s on this issue of sex ed and all that. So that'll be coming out in January, I believe.
Yeah, I'm very interested in that. Just to give you a 5-second overview. I had my book on survival reviewed in the Human Life Review the last edition, because my mother had tried to chemically abort me in 19. And that had some. So am I. It had a lot of very bad physical effects on me.
And emotional, I imagine. And psychological.
Yeah. But to me, that is like the biggest issue. I mean, we've probably killed enough babies in this country I can't even imagine how many more people would be here.
It's a country. I mean, enough people to fill a country, at least.
But when you think of it, it's not just that they were killed, but that they didn't have children that they would have had. So if
the genius they produce and all that.
Yeah, yeah. So in my case, well, if I don't count my husband and his, because his first wife died, if I don't count my first husband who died, but if I did all of that, I have, if I included everybody, I have 39 descendants,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like none of those would have been here in this family, and it just amazes me when I look at that impact.
Yeah.
Like,
And to think if maybe if all of them had as many as you do, that would be, I mean, 39 to the root of 39 or whatever.
but yeah, but when you think of it, I mean, these are descendants. They're not all my children, but
Okay.
so they go down. I now have great grandchildren, but
Mm-hmm.
I look every time I look at them, I think about my mother trying to kill me, because
Mm.
it's like, this is not a choice. It's murder, but it's
Mm-hmm.
not murder. It's almost genocide.
Yeah.
It's like you're,
And
yeah,
one thing that sticks out to me is that the people that choose to abort are the people that feel like they don't have a choice to do otherwise. And a
yeah,
lot of the times they're pressured into that. And
yeah,
so that's it's not pro-choice. It's
yeah,
it's
yeah.
pro-despair,
Yeah,
really.
yeah, I think that's true for many women, but I do think that among, when I was studying for my doctorate in sociology, and it
Mm,
was not unusual for women to really believe, if the educated women, to
mm,
really believe this is our choice, we want a career, so we're not going to have a baby.
mm.
And so I think it also has, we have
But
to,
it's also that idea that you can't have a career and a baby, that stems from despair also,
yeah,
you know.
I prove that you can have a career.
I think a lot of women have, and
Really.
they're good models.
Yeah, yeah, and that you can be happily married and
Yeah.
have a career. But yeah, it is really, it's a national disgrace. They're
Hmm.
not the only ones, but
And yeah, it's a tragedy. I
yeah,
agree.
yeah. But
The worst kind.
yeah, if we counted all the babies that have been aborted, not even thinking of just using birth control so that they couldn't be conceived, but if you look at the ones that have been aborted, I bet all over the world, I bet you could probably fill half of the world again.
Sure. Yeah.
Because all the descendants that will never be.
Hmm. Yeah.
How selfish can you get? Really?
Yeah.
So, um, so when is I think you already told me, when is the first book coming out?
Well, so we had a book come out in September, and
Mm-hmm.
then we had this one come out today.
Okay.
So the first one that came out was called "The Divine Primacy of the Bishop of Rome," and that sort of set the stage for this one.
Mm-hmm.
That one detailed the Pope's role of supreme pastor, and it talked about his universal jurisdiction, not just a primacy of honor, but of jurisdiction during
Yeah.
the first millennium. And now we're discussing the Council of Florence, which is the first major reconciliation between the Catholics and Orthodox since the schism, and the figures that surrounded that. So we have the Dominicans of Paragalata. I think that's how you pronounce it. And they had a house, like a house for the order, near the center of Constantinople, and they would they were a Dominican order that did a lot of work with the Greeks in that area, and the Dominicans knew Latin, so they really served as a bridge between the Greeks and the Latin theologians of the West, and they would translate the Latin's works into Greek and vice versa from Greek to Latin. and they really fostered this amazing dialogue, which helped people, which helped the faithful, and it really helped to bring people together, and so they're to be thanked for that. And there were some disputes, but for the most part, it was really a time of reconciliation and a lot of theological development. So I guess the major figures in the book would be obviously Thomas Aquinas, Demetrios Cydones, John Stojkovich of Ragusa, and Manuel Calecas. And there were some others, but they have these amazing like really dramatic fights. I mean, not them, but like other people would there were these big disputes over, for example, the filioque, or
that's got to be
it probably was the biggest fight. There were some others. There was disputes over azymes and whatnot. But Demetrios Cydones and his brother Prochorus, they were the real protagonists, and they were the most irenic of the group, I would say. So Demetrios was a real scholar. He translated Thomas Aquinas into Greek, and that was probably the biggest impact. He's one of my grandfather's favorites because of that, probably. And then his brother was similar, but I don't know. Just seeing how they operated, their house served as sort of this bridge. I don't know how to put it. Like they would host royalty from the West, and they served as a liaison, I guess, between the Patriarch of Constantinople and the emperor, I guess, who wasn't always friendly towards the Latins, but they would this house would be sort of
neutral.
Yeah, like a neutral space, like a place, like a meeting place for all of them. And this is where they hashed out some of the big debates, and that was really important. And I don't know if we have anything like that nowadays. I guess we try, but they're not exactly. There's not exactly neutral ground.
Well, that's something to pray for.
Yeah,
I mean, really,
I'm really encouraged by the current Pope. He's shown himself to be very, very humble in how he approaches this issue. He's offered relics, I think, of St. Peter and St. Andrew to the Orthodox as sort of a peace offering. He was the first. He was the first pope in 1,000 years to meet with a Russian patriarch, a Russian Orthodox patriarch. So, I mean, that was a huge milestone.
Yeah, he's really good.
Yeah, and to think it was only 50 years ago when we unexcommunicated each other, and now we're offering gifts and having meetings. And
just so weird. We excommunicated each other. Now we're going to unexcommunicate each other. But that is progress.
I mean, excommunicate. They can't excommunicate us on our canonical terms. But
I know. But
yeah,
okay, guys, let's all grow up. But yeah, you need to talk to each other, not do that.
Mhm.
But I am I am very much in favor of Francis. What I like about him is that he is not in the least bit afraid to address the really scary issues.
Yeah.
You can have a huge issue and he'll go for it.
Yeah.
And
he's ambitious.
Yeah.
I mean, he's
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and
he'll
yeah.
Yeah. It's like, this is something we need to be talking about.
For sure.
This continue forever.
And he's very tuned into a lot of the more subtle issues too.
Mm-hmm.
Like the things that fly below the surface because they've persisted in the church for so long and they're supported by the established the establishment or whatever. Like he addresses clericalism head on and abuse
Mm-hmm.
and spiritual abuse is another real thing that he's happy to address.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe not happy to address, but
it's good
willing
that
to.
It's good that he's willing to address these issues because they need to be addressed and they need to be cleaned up.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And not that other popes haven't done their part too, but he's really, I think, tuned in to.
He's proactive.
He's really proactive.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I mean maybe the whole new millennium has ushered in this mindset of doing big things in a new way, but yeah, I'm really grateful for Pope Francis. I think he's doing an excellent job.
You do too.
Now, a lot of people won't appreciate that I say that, but
yeah, I
don't care.
People won't appreciate that I say it either, but I say it frequently, and people give me the "you don't know what you're talking about" look.
Yeah, I mean, maybe we have different metrics we're looking at, but yeah. I think he's tuned into a lot of the pressing issues, and some of the other ones are maybe things other popes have addressed or can address. Like, for example, Pope John Paul II was really good about curbing dissent in universities. Mm-hmm. I think he was the one that removed Father Curran and others from ministry, and that was something he was good at. Mm-hmm. And Francis sees that his predecessors did a lot in that area, and maybe he needs to do something in a different area, and that's okay because each pope can't do everything, and if your predecessor did something, then maybe you can balance that out with something else, and that's fine.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think a lot of times when they have addressed something, it has helped the problem. So there's, helped the issue. So they probably don't need to address it again. But
that too.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, when I look at the things that John Paul II wrote about marriage and theology of the body, I mean, it's like anybody who wants to live according to the correct moral code only has to read those things. Mm-hmm. That's granted. There's a lot of reading there, but sure. I'm always fascinated when I read his theology of the body. Mm-hmm. He is. I would actually call him a feminist in the correct way.
Yeah, I would too.
Yeah, and that's something you probably shouldn't say too often, though, because they only.
I like to qualify it by saying there's first wave feminism, second wave feminism, and third wave feminism. And second and third wave, I think, are pretty detached from authentic feminism, which I mean, Pope John Paul II wrote Mulieris Dignitatem, which was a great letter on the value of women, and that was feminists would applaud that document and say this is representative of authentic feminism.
Mm-hmm. What's kind of funny about that is that he actually had to write a document to tell people this. because they didn't know.
Mm.
You know,
Yeah.
you know, that's really irritating to me.
Sure. Yeah, I can see that.
It's like, what? You know? So, but yeah, I've always enjoyed that. But I really appreciate what he did to at least establish, to establish in the sense, obviously it was true, but he established it as something that we need to be paying attention to, that women really are equal. But equal does not mean the same.
Right.
You know?
Right.
And that's where the problem arises with much of the feminist movement. You know, you want to be the same. Well, it just doesn't work that way.
Right.
But yeah, he was towering intellect.
Oh yeah, and I would say the past few popes have been. I mean, but back to the point, like Benedict didn't write anything close to what John Paul II did on marriage and the family, and that's just a fact. And but that doesn't mean that Benedict failed by not doing that. No. And that's what I like to point out with critics of Pope Francis. Like, even if he's not addressing these issues that you care about, such as abuses in the liturgy or I don't know, something else along those lines, it doesn't mean that he's a failure in that regard, because his predecessors did so much that allows him to address other pressing issues. And that really needs to be acknowledged.
I agree. When he came out talking about the environment, there was an awful lot of discussion about that was negative, you know. It's like, you know, and I just sit around and I think to myself, if we do not have, you know, an environment, what's going to happen to the value of life?
Sure.
You know, I mean, it's, you know, I find that so short-sighted.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, Francis is really good about tying everything together.
Yes.
And in this holistic notion of life really does include the environment. And I think a lot of people would also miss the fact that Benedict also wrote a lot about the environment. And if they're only being sort of one-sided in their critique and only critiquing Francis, that's one, not consistent, but two, there's a development of this life ethic, and it's a real development. It includes, as it grows, it includes more, and it becomes more it becomes more full, if you will.
Yeah, so, that happened repeatedly in the church. I mean, you go all the way back to Leo the 13th, who's one of my favorites, and he was talking about marriage. Well, you know, there's a constant thread, you know, like it, you know, it gets developed, but it is the same thread. And then eventually other things get added. I mean, all the way up to the present.
Yeah, I mean, workers' rights was a big thing for Leo.
Yes.
And Francis is touching on it now again, and John Paul II touched on it quite a bit. And it included more things. And workers' rights now includes women more, for example. It used to be more directed to men. But as it develops and grows, it includes more, and it becomes more expansive. And that's not an error. That's not a lack of orthodoxy, that it's different from how it once was. It's a furthering of I would say, bringing down from revelation into the world in a greater way. And that's the goal of theology, is to expound upon it and make it more concrete.
And also to adapt it to the current situations, you know, because things do change. But yeah, I agree with that. You know, you can see the growth and development of some theological areas over time. I mean, I happen to mention marriage and human sexuality because I work in that area, but also Catholic social teaching, where we started with, you know, just talking about labor, you know, labor and whatnot. And look at now. I mean, it's, you know, it's just really taken off. And I I think that, maybe God has us learn this way because we can only grasp so much at a time.
Yeah, but that's like with the Old Testament, God taught us in different ways, and as we learn, then ushers in the New Testament, and it's a different set of laws, for example, because we don't need the same corrective action, and as we grow in responsibility and understanding of God and His ways, then it's more of we're meant to grow as children of God in filial relationship with Him. The law is there to guide us, but it's not the ultimate purpose.
Mm-hmm.
It's right.
It's like it goes on in a family. Young,
Yeah.
father and mother have rules.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that you just focus on the rules. It's something that's going to help you develop.
Yeah, and if your father disciplines you as a young child, as you grow, the discipline changes, and you're not disciplined in the same way. That's not a failure on his part. Mm-hmm. That's part of the growth process.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I would say part of theosis in a way, part of divinization and in Christ. It's becoming more human and more of how God wanted us to be in the beginning.
Mm. So, people that don't want consistent documents coming out from Rome on the same topic that is being more developed and more refined with each document, it's kind of like saying, we don't need anything beyond Genesis.
Yeah. Sort of.
Yeah,
Maybe not that restrictive, but the same mentality.
No, yeah, but it is the same mentality. I'm always thrilled when a new document comes out, and because it's like you never know what you're going to find, but it's always going to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you never know what the reaction to it is either, or what it's going to be. Mm-hmm. And that's always fun to see.
That is, because I remember reading some of Francis and thinking, wow, this is the man for this time. Mm-hmm. And the next thing I know, everybody I knew was like, what's wrong with him? Why is he addressing this? Why doesn't he mind his own business?
Sure. Like, well, that's yeah. Well, the church needs reform, and people need constant reform and conversion. Oh. And people also need, I think a lot of what Francis is good at is putting his finger on the sore spot and saying this is what needs help. And yes, it's sore, but that's where you need to really fix the issue.
Yeah. So, I think that when people read these documents, and I mean, it's usually professionals, the theologians, the priests, the deacons, seminary students, or a few students who are not approaching ordination. It's like I think to myself how wonderful it would be if we could just have, parish classes. This is what the new Pope said about this. And, just so they'd be aware rather than reading something in the newspaper. Mm-hmm. So, but it's, I understand the priest reads it, the bishop reads it, the priest reads it, and then they give it to the parish. But to have a class, where it's like, okay, the first thing he addresses is this, and this has this history, mm-hmm. I think would be so helpful to people.
And these implications for the concrete mm-hmm. daily life. Yeah, we've tried to do that at my parish, where we'll review a document, and we'll really go in depth, and we'll study it even outside of the class. We'll read it and take notes, and mm-hmm. and I think that's really brought a lot of life to our parish. Mm-hmm. And it's created, I mean, some controversy because some people don't like documents, but
Yes.
if you're engaged and if you're engaged and you're willing to give it a fair shake, then it's ultimately, I mean, if nothing else, if you don't agree with it or whatever, not everything in a document is a teaching, right?
Right.
At least you're learning about the Pope. You're learning where his mind is. You're learning where the church is, and you know, it all serves sort of the bigger picture. And you know, you can map out what's going on in the church and how the church views, or how the hierarchical church views the local churches, or stuff like that. So
yeah,
I think it's all really helpful.
Yeah,
I highly recommend it.
Yeah, I think it's fascinating, and you know, I'll get all excited when something new comes out, and people look at me like, oh, "Man, is she weird?" You know, just weird.
That's okay. I get the same. I get the same reaction sometimes.
Yeah. It's like, oh, a new document, but they're so packed full of information. You know, it's
and they cite all their sources, and yeah, it's really
great stuff. I think we're probably at the hour point.
Yeah, I think we're about there.
Yeah. Okay. So, anything that you want to emphasize that you spoke about?
Well, I will say, this book is really unique among my grandfather's books. My grandfather has written a lot on Eastern Orthodoxy as a convert himself, and he addresses so many issues, but this particular book is really unique in that it addresses a specific time period, in a specific order within that time period. And if anyone, I mean, there's a lot of Dominicans out there that I think would really benefit in knowing their own history from reading this book, and a lot of Eastern Orthodox that could benefit from reading it. A lot of Catholics. It gives a real inside view into a very contentious, but also hopeful and ultimately reconciling period in the life of the church, which really can serve as a model for us today. And also, it's a model for the study. I mean, those people who study ecumenism in general can look to this period as a real turning point, and as something to aspire to today in our own way. Although, you know, it's not going to be this. It's not going to look the same, but it's something to really aspire to. So, yeah, I would say that. And also, it's just a really fascinating book to read. It's only 100 pages, so you could read it in a couple days probably, or an extended period if you chose to. But it gives a lot of insight into a lot of really impactful figures who aren't that well known, who could be more well known. Each chapter is a profile of a different figure or a different set of figures. So there's one chapter, for example, on the house at Paragolata. There's another chapter on two brothers who were both Dominicans and very impactful figures. And then, of course, you have Thomas Aquinas. So any fans of Thomas Aquinas can really enjoy this as well.
And this book is now available from En route, or
it's available from En route. It's available from Amazon. I think any major bookseller probably has it, or at least will have it in the future. It was just published today, so that might take some time, but it's available where you get your books. And I just got an email while we're doing this show about someone emailed me. They want to review it in one of the big theological journals. So, yep. So, looking forward to that.
That's great. Well, I wish you the best of luck and getting as much of your grandfather's work out there as you can.
Thank you.
A very
and if you can offer any prayers, that would be greatly appreciated.
I will do that.
Thank you.
Okay.
It was very nice meeting you.
Yep, same here. If you do, when you publish another book, just we'll do another interview.
Sure, soon enough. It'll be soon enough.
Okay. All righty.
All right.
Let's close in prayer.
Sure.
In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit.
Amen.
Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven.
Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Amen.
Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Well, I certainly enjoyed meeting you and talking to you, and
likewise.
I look forward to another interview.
All right.
I'll be reading this stuff.
Good. Glad to hear that.
All righty.
Take care.
Yeah. Bye-bye.